Meeting come to order. Ask if we have any special intentions. I do. Councilwoman DeFrances.
Yes, please. My assistant, Syria, had a tragedy in her family recently. Her great-grandbaby, it was a little boy, about 8 months old, died. I can't even speak about it. It breaks my heart. The accident some of you read about where the car went in the canal, that was her great-grandbaby. The little boy's name was Collage. It was about 8 months old. Syria's grandson, that would be the dad. His name is Collage, and the baby was named after him. So please keep the entire family, the Collage and his wife and the poor baby that died, and the McGrobbies and parents on the other side, the grandparents on the other side as well. Like I said, I break up just thinking about something like that happening. So please keep them all in your prayers because they definitely need them. Thank you.
Councilman Reyna, if you lead us in prayer.
Before I start my prayer, I'd just like to remind everybody that this week is the 45th 45 years ago, the Roe versus Wade decision came down. So just remember all of those small children. Let us bow our heads and remember that we are in the presence of the Lord. Lord God, in your goodness, you have given us the gift of life. We ask your pardon and forgiveness for our own failure and the failure of all people in this world to protect and respect the gift you have given us. We pray that with your grace, we and all people will respect, revere, and protect all life, and that we will be especially sensitive to life of the unborn, the abused, the neglected, the disabled, and the elderly. God, all who make decisions about life, that they will do so with wisdom, love, and courage. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
We have a couple of scouts in the audience from Troop 227. If you come up and lead us in the pledge.
Please stand and join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Cellular telephones, pagers, beepers, and other devices of this nature must be deactivated or silenced throughout the council meeting. Mr. Chairman, I've received a request this evening to amend the agenda to include a resolution supporting and encouraging the Republican National Committee to bring the Southern Republican Leadership Conference to the state of Louisiana and the city of Kenner. I have a motion by Councilmember Segure, seconded by Councilmember Wilmot, to suspend your council rules tonight to add item 13B. Council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 7-0. I have a motion by Councilmember Segure, seconded by Councilmember Wilmot, to amend the agenda to include item 13B. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to object? Please come forward.
See no one.
Hearing none, council members, please vote. One more?
One vote pending.
Mr. Chairman, motion passes 7-0 to add the item to the agenda tonight. Under the consent agenda this evening, we have item 1, approval of minutes, the council meeting of January 11th, 2018. Item 2 is approval of alcoholic beverage permit applications. Item 2A is a resolution granting an alcoholic beverage permit to Friends of Rivertown Incorporated on February 12, 2018 at 404 Williams Boulevard, being property owned by the city of Kenner and Kenner, Louisiana. Item 3 is approval of bingo and public gathering applications. We have none. Item 4 is correspondence and reports from the mayor and a CAO or department heads. Item 4A, at the request of the administration, a report from Mayor Zahn.
Mr. Mayor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Council Chairman. Just do a few quick reports on some things that happened this past week. As you all know, we had to close City Hall offices starting on Tuesday because of the freeze that we had. We obviously kept our EOC open, and we kept in contact with the council to come into the EOC and meet with us. It started just being kind of as a precautionary event, but it evolved into what I'd call as which y'all saw, as a health issue. Because when we experienced little to zero water pressure, we had some problems. And I want to first thank the council for agreeing to do what we did, and also, and I'll get to the water distribution on how we all helped with that. We did come together through teamwork. We have identified numerous problems that we had throughout the city, and I'll read to you just to let you know where we were. We only identified by street, which is not really a lot, I don't think, 3 fire hydrant leaks, which were identified, and we took care of that, and only about 24 water line breaks. It sounds bad, but I mean, for what we were experiencing with the freeze, I don't think that was that bad. We shared that info with Jefferson Parish Water Department, which I want to stress to everybody out there, which we know this, but we do not control the water, and we had no control over the zero water pressure. That was their decision. Not saying it's right or it's wrong. I'm just saying that we had nothing to do with that, and we had to deal with the repercussions of that. Of course, that led to our, what I called a health issue, making sure that our residents had water. I want to thank all of you all who helped with that. I want to thank all the city officials, my administration that helped with that, the Kenner Police Department and Fire Department, all the city employees, the directors and the assistant directors from all those different departments. We did it on Thursday evening for a few hours, and we also did it on Friday for a few hours from the mid-morning to about mid-afternoon. We gave away 68,476 bottles of water, or either sport drinks. Someone figured this up in City Hall. I think it was Ms. Heather Hilliard. It would have stretched approximately 26 football fields when placed side by side. That's a lot of water. 12,600 bottles of those went to Westminster Towers, Chateau Living Center, Nouveau Mark, Brookdale, and Inspired Living. Why did we do that? Because we had a big outcry, and most of you all saw that night and that day from the retirement homes, the assisted living homes, that they had no access to come to the water distribution line at the Pavilion City Park to get those waters. So we actually sent it out there through the Kenner Fire Department. I believe the Kenner Police Department helped with that also, besides the Kenner Police Department and the Fire Department being on hand at the site. So I want to thank everyone who was part of that. And also, the first amount of water, which some have criticized, and I continue to stand by it, was purchased from Lowe's in Metairie. Because, why did we do it? Because the shelves were empty in Kenner. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. The shelves were empty. Our people had no water. Yes, I'm guilty of going to Metairie to buy water. We stand by that, and I think you all stand by that. We then reached out to Mr. Ronnie Maines, who was actually reaching out with another offer at the same time of CRC. That got us through the first night. The second night, he actually dispatched from Houston a 6-hour, 8-hour drive to get 2 tractor trailers of water and sport drinks here for the next day. So all those waters were free. I know if y'all weren't at the site, some of you all, like Councilman Carroll, was actually going door to door doing the waters also. Without Ronnie Maines, we probably would have not had some water the next day. So people had drinking water, they had water to wash their hands. If they needed to use it to bathe some kind of way with, they had that also. We gave away 1 case of water on Friday. We gave away 1 case of sport drinks, and then he threw in some, I don't know, some type of frozen pie. I mean, it was pumpkin pie or something, which was excellent. It was just one more little extra thing. In all, it was something that I think that every Kenner resident enjoyed if they came out there. I think it showed that we stand behind our community and we get some things done. Not going to delay it too much longer. We do have some upcoming weather we just have to be aware of. I don't think it's going to be like it was last week, but we just need to be aware of it starting on Friday night. There was a Chateau water main break, and Councilman DeFrancis asked me about this on Chateau Boulevard, where all the work is being done right now. That was not done again by the city of Kenner. I'm not saying it was done by Jefferson Parish Water Department, but it was probably done by the contractor. So the water department from Jefferson Parish reached out that night, got out there. If you didn't see it, it was a lake. So that's been fixed, and we have to address the road problems. One more thing is that we have met with the Gateway at Esplanade. And I didn't have a chance to tell you, but we didn't get a chance to get together before this. It is actually rat-free. The exterminator went out there. I believe Councilman Klein went out there with them. It is rat-free. The exterminator has looked at it. So that development will start probably within the next 60 to 90 days. We don't have any concern of what we had talked about. I feel good about that, and I think that's going to be a good project, and I will keep you informed as we go on as that project continues. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk? Sure.
I want to thank you because we made that commitment to the people of Canes Brule and the surrounding area, and they were truly worried about the consequences of demolishing that building had that not been done. So you and I had spoken about it, as well as with other members of your administration. So on behalf of all of those people, I want to thank you all for keeping the word that we gave so long ago. That's number one. Number two, you were absolutely on target. Rodney Maines and his people and the fire department, the police department, and people from your administration, your directors were out there, I know because I was there with you all. They were working. They weren't there taking pictures. Every single person that was out there, including you, Mayor Zahn, everyone was working to make sure that we worked together to get that water. And by the way, it was a sweet potato pie that he gave.
Sweet potato, I'm sorry. I didn't eat it at once, so I didn't know.
Thank you.
I would like to ditto that. As far as the water distribution, it was well organized and well appreciated. So thank you, Mayor Zahn and administration.
Can I add one thing?
Absolutely.
Our EOC director, Doug Doe, Emergency Operation Director, told us in the agenda meeting the other day, usually that's not done by the municipalities like that, and that hasn't been taken on like that. That was our first pod distribution that we've actually done on our own. So I think we did actually pull off a pretty successful one. So I'm kind of proud of the administration, the fire department, police department, everyone who I mentioned before, the City of Kenner Council, how we actually came together in less than 24 hours to do that. So it was good.
It came together very well.
Yeah.
And Councilman Carroll, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'd just like to say that, just to mention the fact that I like to thank the police department and the fire department and the public works department, along with the administration. Literally, the police officer on Chart Street saw me. I was riding around, stopped to say that there was a leak in front of the Our Lady Perpetual Help Church. He notified me. I notified the mayor and administration, who in turn notified the parish. I'd like to thank Councilman Spears because they immediately came out there because it was going to, at first it was a leak, then it turned into a little Niagara Falls. It was getting to be a safety concern. But the fact is that the policemen, the fire department, emergency preparedness put on different hats to facilitate the safety of the community. And it just goes to show when we all work together, positive things will always happen. So I want to thank all the guys for being safe and to ensuring the safety of everyone else. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. That will conclude the consent agenda this evening. I have a motion by Councilmember Wilmot, second by Councilmember DeFrances. On the consent agenda, council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 7-0 for your consent agenda. Under the public appearance agenda this evening, we have item 9, public hearings for final passage. We have none. Item 10 is opening of bids. We have none. Item 11 is reclassification of zoning for final passage. We have none. Item 12 is other ordinances for final passage. We have none. Item 13 is resolutions and motions by council members. Item 13A is a resolution submitting a nominee for appointment to the New Orleans Aviation Board. I have a motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Hand. This evening, Mr. Chairman, I've received a request to amend the legislation. So prior to voting, I will recognize the mayor this evening for an amendment.
Mr. Mayor.
Having trouble with that. We are going to suggest to the council the agreement that we have with the City of New Orleans is to actually submit 3 names. I do apologize. if anyone in the public says that this is the last minute, put on at the last minute. But there's been some urgencies in the recent few days, last week. We were a little preoccupied with this, well, like I said, talked about the freeze. But the city of Kenner is in a position where we need a little bit more input with what's going on at the airport. This airport board position has been vacated by someone who did a fantastic job, Mr. Jim Hudson. He did a good job, but he has recently moved basically to Baton Rouge. He's working in Baton Rouge. It's kind of hard for him to get back and forth. The urgency to replace this board position right now is, like we had discussion in some of the agenda meetings, this is a pretty important project that's going on at the airport within the city of Kenner. The airport is in the city of Kenner and St. Charles Parish, one of the runways. Not one piece is an unincorporated Jefferson Parish. So Kenner needs to get that voice back as quickly as possible. I wanted to have more time last week to reach out, and I've spoken to some community leaders, and it might be something we want to do in the future that we kind of get a little input. We'll look at that for the future. The urgency here right now is the urgency that we have. I'm going to submit the names of Nikki Nicolosi, who's a Kenner resident, Mr. Robert Godola, who is another Kenner resident, and also Mr. William/Bill Pepperone. 3 Kenner residents that Mitch Landrieu has the luxury of choosing one of those names. So with y'all's help, if y'all could add those names and move on that, I would appreciate it, because we do need to get some voice back on the board. Again, this is of no disrespect to Mr. Jim Hudson. I think he did a good job. It's just that we need to get that board position filled. Thank y'all.
I have a motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Hand on the amendment tonight. Is there any discussion on your amendment?
We do have somebody from the audience.
Okay.
Is it on the amendment, Mr. Morella?
Well, it's on the amendment, and it's on the item on the agenda. It's on the whole thing.
You have the floor.
Okay. Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 46 years. I couldn't agree with you more, Mayor. For years, Kenner has virtually had no say in what goes on at this airport at all. New Orleans calls all the shots. And for many years, I've been coming up here and I've been saying they might own that airport, but it sits in our backyard. And I believe, and I hope that these people you're going to put on that aviation board will remind them of that constantly. And because we should have equal say as what goes on at that airport. That's the reason why right now that airport was not extended into St. Charles Parish, because St. Charles Parish wanted some say on that board, and they wanted to appoint their own aviation board member. And the city of New Orleans said, no, we're going to appoint the board member. So in my understanding, St. Charles Parish told them to take a hike. That's why it's not been extended into St. Charles Parish. If I'm wrong about that, anybody can feel free to correct me. Anybody got any comments, any questions? Thank you.
Madam Clerk, if you can read the 3 names that have been submitted again, please.
Yes, sir. Nikki Nicolosi, William Pepperone, and Robert Godola. Is there any further discussion on the amendment tonight? Hearing none, council members, please vote on your amendment. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 7-0 on your amendment. On the original motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Hand. Councilman Segura, you have the floor.
Thank you. Just to further clarify and reiterate, as the 2 speakers, the mayor and Mr. Morrell, have said, the agreement that was put in place, as I recall, in the 80s with the Kenner administration at that time, having the same dilemma of wanting representation with the aviation board, got in agreement that we could recommend an appointment to the board, but it's still up to the mayor of New Orleans to approve the recommendation of the 3 names that was submitted through the council, the mayor's office. But I want to point out that we're going to hopefully pass these 3 names, and we will be moving that on to the mayor's office. The problem that I hope don't happen is that the current mayor think that it's not urgent enough for him to do something right now and delay it. So if anybody has any influence or impact in the city of New Orleans mayor's office, we need to urge them to act on one of these names quickly so that we can get our representation clearly back to this board and help us out, because as the mayor said, there was some events that took place and they chose not to invite us, but hey, might have been an oversight, who knows. But at least if we had our board member there, we could rely on them to keep us informed. So we are hopefully going to pass this in just a second, send it off to the City of New Orleans mayor's office, and then any means, anybody have any, I would urge you to contact them and ask the mayor to act swiftly and appoint one of these individuals back to the board. Thank you.
Hearing no more discussion, council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 13B is a resolution supporting and encouraging the Republican National Committee to bring the Southern Republican Leadership Conference to the state of Louisiana and the city of Kenner. I have a motion by Councilmember Segur, seconded by Councilmember Wilmot. Councilman Segur, you have the floor.
Thank you. And again, we do apologize per se for bringing this as this fashion from the floor without making our standard agenda or even the supplemental agenda, but sometimes things become urgent and need to take action, and in this case, this is something, but in reality doesn't cause any real problem. It's a resolution to encourage the Republican Party to consider and grant the state of Louisiana, the Louisiana Republican Party, to hold their Southern Leadership Conference here in the city of Kenner in October of this year. There's been some dialogue between the Pontchartrain Center, the Lieutenant Governor's Office, I'm sure the Republican parties here in the state as well as the national. So there is the interest that they are considering this. So by us passing this tonight just further pushes the powers to be to grant and allow that conference to be hosted here in Kenner, which will be an extremely economic great thing for us, because we're talking 4 or 5 days of the conference and probably 10,000 plus people perhaps come to it. So to fill up hotels, fill up restaurants, buy gas and other sundry items by that many people here in the city is going to be a boom to us, as well as having the pride of being able to host such a prestigious event. And so with that said, I think it's certainly encouraging that we all agree and pass this on. What will happen now is, with this getting passed, hopefully, we have representatives who are going up to Washington, D.C. for the Washington Mardi Gras, and they will be circulating this resolution, urging this amongst the parties of figureheads, and where we should get some good traction with this legislation being brought up there and hand-delivered. So that's the urgency why we needed to get this done tonight. So again, I encourage everyone up here to please vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'd just like to echo Councilman Segur about expediting this issue, which was not done the normal way. Just a little information, this has to be unanimous. All of us have to vote to support this, to get this passed based on how we're bringing it on. As my fellow Republicans, me being the other non-Republican, we have all the issues about not working together or bipartisanism. This is the city of Kenner showing that as a Democrat and all of my fellow Republicans, we are working together. So I will not hold back my vote. I'm going to support this because it will support the entire city of Kenner. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Just 1 minute, please. And I just wanted to mention that in order to bring it from the floor, you have to have 7, but in order to pass it, you need 4. You need a majority, okay? Next up, has the floor is Councilman Reyna.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say that this, for the public so that they know, because normally when something's put up like this on the floor, I usually don't agree with it coming from the floor at the last minute, but this is a resolution. This is not an ordinance. This is not law. This is a resolution. It's simply a request. And, you know, with that being said, I do think it's a big benefit to Kenner, and I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Klein.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, will be supporting this resolution. All tourism for the city of Kenner is good, and certainly the Republican committee, the Southern Republican Leadership Committee, that would be great for the city of Kenner if it brings 5,000 to 10,000 people here for 3 or 4 or 5 days. That would really help our economy. So I'd be supporting this, too, and ask my fellow councilmen to support it also. Thank you, Mr. President.
Looks like the board is clear. Madam Clerk?
Council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 14 is items removed from the consent agenda. We have none. Item 15 is acceptance of contracts and similar matters approved by the mayor. Item 15A is summary ordinance number 12,333, an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Hahn Enterprises Incorporated to furnish and install Ultra Play stations at Seton Park Playground in accordance with telephone bid number T17-2549 and an amount not to exceed $7,560 for the Department of Parks and Recreation. I have a motion by Councilmember Hand, second by Councilmember Klein. Councilman Hand, would you have the floor.
Thank you. I would just like to say that this project has been in the works for 11 years, and I am happy to report that hopefully in my short time here, I will be able to see it to completion. And I'd like to thank Councilman Impastato for starting it back up again, I guess about 3 years ago, and having the funds, getting the funds, providing the funds for it. And Kenner Recreation, Ken Maricoli, thank you. We've had several meetings, so I'm excited about it. So, and thank you also, Mr. Mayor and your administration. Thanks.
Council members, please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Item 15B is summary ordinance number 12,334. An ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Economical Janitorial and Paper Supplies, LLC, to supply janitorial supplies on an as-needed basis in accordance with sealed bid number 17-6411 and an amount not to exceed $75,000 per year for the Department of General Services. I have a motion by Councilmember DeFrances, second by Councilmember Wilmot. Hearing no discussion, council members, please vote. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 7-0. Item 16 is ordinances and resolutions in summary for first reading. Item 16A is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Diamond Electric Company Incorporated to provide vehicle detector inductive loop installation or replacement on an as-needed basis in accordance with sealed bid number 17-6414 and an amount not to exceed $70,000 per year for the Department of Public Works. Item 16B is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Crow and Associates, doing business as Crow Slit Turf Surfaces to provide ditch spraying on an as-needed basis in accordance with letter bid number 17-1566 and an amount not to exceed $10,000 per year for the Department of Public Works. Item 16C is an ordinance approving amendment number 1 to the agreement with the City of Kenner and Fire Apparatus Specialists Incorporated to increase the annual cap from $50,000 to $250,000 for the fire department. Item 16D is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Hahn Enterprises Incorporated to furnish and install a new playground at Seton Park in accordance with sealed bid number 17-6415 and an amount not to exceed $53,152 for the Department of Parks and Recreation. Item 17 is reports from the council and/or special committees. Hearing none. Item 18 is new business. We have none. Item 19 is unfinished business and motions to reconsider or remove from a tabled position. We have none. Item 20 is persons wishing to address the council on special subject matters.
Okay, before calling the first person, please be reminded, no campaigning, no personal attacks upon others, or verbal or otherwise. First, I'd like to call up Ms. Sharon Preen. Do you come up? Sharon Preen. Like Sharon must have left. Next is Mr. Al Murillo. State your name and address, sir.
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 46 years. I want to say this to the mayor. On the water issue that you stated early in the meeting, I would take criticism any day by showing concern for the people of Kenner than to take criticism for showing no concern for the citizens of Kenner. So I want to state that first of all. Second of all, Mayor, I'd like to ask you if you received any figures yet on the economic impact to our city from that movie production back on December the 14th and the 15th.
Okay, as you know, you've already received the ones on the Christmas Village, and because of the storm, we got one to you. It's a little bit more complicated to do the one that you're asking, so we need a little more time for that. We'll give you something by the next council meeting on that one. The storm did it shut the City Hall down for basically 4 days. So we were able to squeeze that one out for you. You know, sometimes your list is kind of long, so we got that one to you. We gave you the Pontchartrain Center. You had 3, really. So you got Christmas, Pontchartrain Center. We're going to get the movie thing for you next time. The storm delayed it.
Okay, that's leading up to my next comments, Mayor. I want to thank Deborah Foshee for giving me those figures on that independent audit on the Pontchartrain Center. And I want to thank Ken Maricoli for giving me those figures on the money that was raised in the Christmas Village, okay? Now, I want to respond to some comments that was made in here by a fellow citizen at the last council meeting. You didn't freeze my time, but that's all right, Councilman Wilmot, I got plenty of time. First of all, addressing this council on special subject matter is not a privilege. It's not a privilege. And this is what one of our citizens said at the last meeting. This is a right that is afforded to the people through the state's open meetings laws and the Constitution of the United States of America, First Amendment right to freedom of speech. So I just wanted to clear that up right now. It's a right. It's not a privilege. Anybody got any comments, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Greg Taft. Name and address, sir.
My name, excuse me, Greg Taft at 3720 West Loyola Drive in Kenner. I want to bring up a couple things. One is several months ago, I brought up about the administration and this committee looking at the codes governing political signs. And I haven't seen anything on that yet. And I'm talking about the problem with the billboard sign that's movable. And I just want to keep that to y'all's vest. The other thing I wanted to bring up is that I think the administration, the council, the police department, fire department, and Ronnie Manez did a great thing for the city of Kenner, because it was all over. People were having a very difficult time even finding water, much less, you know, they wanted to buy it, but they couldn't. And y'all did a phenomenal job in setting that up. I also commend the administration and the police department, because they did it in such a manner that it was orderly. The lines were orderly. Everything went smoothly, and people appreciated that. I wish we could have had that type of department during Katrina. So I just want y'all to know that a lot of people do recognize what y'all did, and they really did appreciate it, because a lot of them could not get water. They really couldn't. The other thing I want to bring up, and it's just a question, I saw a posting where we purchased several vehicles, and I just want to know if that was already in the budget, or because this is the first I heard of it when I saw the posting about the vehicles. I'm not saying you didn't need them. I'm just saying I wasn't aware of it. Anyway, again, thank y'all, because I think that was a super thing y'all did, and I know many of us appreciate it, because I was driving all over trying to find water and couldn't find it.
Thank you for the comments, Mr. Teff. And Mr. Mayor, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Teff. I appreciate that. Yes, it was in the capital budget. It just takes a little time for them to come in. Obviously, the budget was passed in June. It takes a little while. So we finally got them in. When we got them in, we also had to stripe them, and put the decals on them. So that takes a little bit longer too. Actually, I probably waited a little bit until we had most of them to do the picture to put it online, because Recreation and Public Works were asking for their vehicles, and we were trying to do it all at one time. So answer to your question, yes, it's just that's the reason for the delay. But thank you for the water comments. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Reyna.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Foshee, those 22 vehicles that are new to our fleet, those are the leased vehicles, correct?
Am I on? Yes. They are leased with the dollar buyout. So they're actually, it's basically being financed over 5 years. But during that period of time, we also have 100% warranty on them, so it's going to help a great deal. Also, they're much more fuel efficient than the ones that they're replacing. So Ronnie's not here tonight, but he's quite the magician. And he refers to himself as an antique who repairs antique cars. So we're giving him a break here and getting him a few vehicles in the fleet that actually can keep running for a while.
Yeah, well, I commend the administration on doing that, and I've always, since the 6 years that I've served on this council, one of the things I always brought up was the fact that our fleet is a very aging fleet, and you know, we have some very old vehicles, so you know, but I just wanted to clear it up for the public that the city didn't go out and buy 22 vehicles at, you know, $20,000, $30,000 a piece, and where did that money come from? This is a 5-year lease with a 1-year buyout at the end of the lease.
Correct.
And we budgeted the annual lease payments.
Yes, sir.
So I just wanted the public to know.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilman Carroll, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I forgot to mention this earlier, but I'd like to say that between Airline Highway and Kenner Avenue over the past couple of weeks, some of the neighbors have had some people trespassing on their property, pulling at their doors when they're home, and they were a little uncomfortable. This doesn't happen a lot, I must say, in that area. But the fact is that it happened a couple of times, and I'd like to commend the police officers for coming out. One particular incident, the police officer were patrolling the area and literally able to apprehend the person that was doing it. Another one, they ran off, but the police was there in a fast, you know, real fast. But I would like to say that one of the residents called me up a couple of days ago and literally wanted me to tell the chief to thank him and thank the officers for something as small as this. The officer that happened to patrol the area noticed that her car door was open and the lights were on. Now, the card that he left, the police officer, it says, to guard your property against intruders, the undersigned officer was here at 2:43 a.m. So 2:43 in the morning, the officer was riding around, spotted the vehicle with the lights on and the door open, went by he realized it was early in the morning, but he wanted to let her know that he shut the door, to turn off the lights and to make sure that it didn't look like somebody broke in. And she thought that was something special. I mean, we obviously understand it is something special, but she wanted to say thank you for that and to leave the card to show that he thought enough about letting her know she was really happy about this. And this is a lady who I know who's been living there a long, long time. But she just wanted me to tell the chief and the officer thanks for that. She realized things happen out of their control, but she can appreciate the fact that, the officers are patrolling the area to ensure their safety, particularly a lady who lives alone in this part of her phase of her life. So the little thing like this card here is something that everybody, this lady and all of us can be appreciative of the work that the gentlemen do. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. And the board is clear. Do I have a motion? Moved and second. We're adjourned.